So I decided to write a book called Conceptual Commercialism, Commercial Conceptualism.
A tongue twister.
And the initial challenge to convince my professors, that was very difficult. They gave me such a hard time. I went home crying so many times. I made a list of these 10 people. I called all of them and I said, this is my plan. I want to write this book. This is my idea. Would you collaborate with me? Eventually, I had 8 prominent designers and companies like LVMH who were willing to collaborate on the book. We showcased case studies, interviews, basically revealing the phenomenon of conceptual designers working with commercial companies and the other way around.
This is really, really impressive. What happened next? Hello, Inners community. My guest today embodies a versatile blend of executive prowess, in-depth knowledge of the complex design industry, an internationally acclaimed design strategist, and influential public speaker with expertise in design management and design communication that have garnered recognition from industry leaders, government organizations, and cultural institutions. An exceptional human having the interest of the environment and communities at heart, starting with her family and children to enriching the lives of others. Holland's finest, Esra Lemmens, welcome to the Inners.
Oh, thank you, Ali. That is beautifully said. That's a very generous introduction. Thank you so much for having me. It's unusual for me to be on the other side of things, I must say.
Thank you very much for being with us. I only speak the truth, and it's all just facts. We're privileged to have someone of your caliber over here.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Thanks.
And being on the other side of the fence, how do you feel when the hunter is being hunted and the host is the hostage?
Yeah, it's unusual, as I said, but I'm up for it.
Great. Looking forward to it. So, can you please start walking us through your journey, starting with your early beginnings and your creative upbringing?
Oh, well, there's a lot to say, actually. I think, speaking of let's start with the creative upbringing.
Please do.
I remember graduating from high school, right? You're about, 17, 18 years old, and you feel like this is the moment, this is your time to shine. You've worked so hard all these years, and then what are you gonna do? I really felt like, all eyes are on you, and there was so much pressure on the choices you make, right? Because what you're gonna study is gonna determine the course of your life, right? Little did I know that nowadays, people can easily have 2 or 3 careers, right? Back in the days, you only had one. So this is like generational change. Here we go already. But anyway, obviously my parents, like every other parent, had probably their ideas for what they wanted me to do. And I had no clue. And I decided to go to art school just because this is something that I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed the freedom. And I remember going in for my exam, because what I did like about it was the challenge. I believe only 1 out of 10 got accepted. So I thought, okay, you know what, if this is not for me, I'll figure that out real soon. And I got accepted. So somehow I also felt pressure that I had to make it work. I remember going there, speaking to others, and they were going for autonomous design or art or product design. I thought, not for me, I guess. And initially I opted to become a professor in fine arts and design because there's a very practical, very pragmatic element to it, I guess. And I also thought, this is probably the best way to secure financial stability by the time that I graduate, right? Rather than, becoming an artist or a designer. I think I really That was my perception at the time, I guess. So I did that for 4 years, and then I took the time out for a year and a half to travel around the world. And then I did my master's in product design, which is the subject that initially didn't appeal to me at all. But I think over the course of the initial 4 years, I really grew wary of the importance of design and the impact, designers have in the world. And I wanted to build that out further. I think my whole time at, the art school in the Netherlands was quite of a struggle. I always felt very different from everybody else. You can only imagine all the unique and flamboyant characters that you find in art school. And I think especially graduating from product design without a product, but with a vision, that was really difficult.
That's very unusual.
Yeah, that was very unusual.
How did that happen?
Well, I think, when you come to the end of your graduation, and again, whether it's high school or in university, I really felt pressured and I thought, okay, all eyes on me, everybody's going to look at me and I need to showcase really what I stand for. And let's be honest, you're only a teenager at the time, right? I can say that now, 15 years further. So I became very critical and I thought, who am I to design the next best chair? We already have so many things in the world, right? So, and I think design is a great tool to drive change, to make people look at things differently. So I thought I'm going to make this statement and not design anything, but I graduate with a vision. So I decided to write a book. And the initial challenge, forget all the, the practical side of things, the actual research and the writing, which, took me years. But to convince my professors, that was very, very difficult. I think now looking back at it, they knew me better than I probably knew myself. They gave me such a hard time. I went home crying so many times. But all jokes aside, later on, when we, years after I graduated and when I went back, they were joking and they said, we knew exactly which buttons to push and we were never going to make it easy for you. And that made me realize that they knew me better than anybody, than myself even. I always thought that I was doing fine. I had self-awareness. I could look around seeing that, I was not the worst in class. I was doing pretty okay, but they always felt like they could push me to get further. And I'm glad that they did because, here I am today. So I think it all worked out well. But when I pitched for the book to graduate with the book, I think in the initial 2 pitching rounds, they didn't want to let me graduate. So I didn't expect this. And I was wondering how I could turn it around. So I figured that if these people don't believe in me, how can I convince them otherwise? And I decided to make a list of the people that I admire in the design industry, the companies that I admire in the design industry. And back in the days, we would Google their phone number and give them a call, right? So that's what I did. I made a list of these 10 people. I called all of them and I said, this is my plan. I want to write this book. This is my idea. Would you collaborate with me? Would you like to be part of this book? And first person said yes. Then, at some point we had some big names in there. So other people wanted to be part of it. So by the time I pitched for the 3rd round, my professors were really impressed. How did I manage to contact these people, to connect with them, to convince them? And eventually, we had, I had 8 prominent designers and companies like LVMH who were willing to collaborate on the book. And we did, we showcased case studies, interviews, basically revealing the phenomenon of conceptual designers working with commercial companies and the other way around. That's why the book was called Conceptual Commercialism, Commercial Conceptualism.
Tongue twister.
Absolutely.
But this is really, really impressive.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay. What happened next?
What happened next? So yeah, I mean, I started my business like you do. And I must say, I let go of the idea of being a designer myself real quick. Coming back to what I said, looking at my peers, my fellow classmates, there were some that were doing better than me and some that were doing probably worse, right? But there were also a couple that were, to my opinion, incredibly talented, but didn't know how to communicate their ideas or build out their ideas or, build out their businesses. And I think it's more or less in my nature that I was always trying to encourage them, to help them, because I genuinely thought that their work was so great that everybody should get to see this. So starting my own business, starting out as a design studio initially, now that, makes me giggle. But I realized that my strength is behind the scenes. So I started getting these requests from other people to help them on the back end of their business. And I think especially in the creative industries, a lot of designers start out that way, right? You start out, on your own, you attract some jobs, some projects, you grow without having a proper plan or proper strategy in place. And I felt like this is where I could be of added value. And that's how the agency was born, basically. So I started out in the Netherlands, and then I must say that I'd always left my heart a little bit in Dubai when I came here the first time in 2007. And it took me one off day, basically, a rainy day, like we have so many. And I thought, I should just pack up and go. And that's what I did. I got rid of everything, my apartment, my car, everything. I packed up and moved to Dubai.
When was that?
2014.
Okay.
Just, I think, a couple of months after graduating. Yeah.
So you moved here in 2014. What was the plan?
Well, the plan was initially, because I already had clients all over the world.
Okay.
And at that time, it entailed a lot of traveling. We weren't used to doing meetings online, as we are now. So I figured that if I move to Dubai, within 6 hours, I can pretty much reach everyone. And that sounded great. So that's what I did for the first 3 years, I must say. And then there was so much to do for the design industry here because it's such a young environment. That since the last couple of years, we really focus on design here in the Middle East. I still have my clients all over the world. I still travel a lot. But the plan was to put design on the map for the Middle East, basically.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing a great job at it. And the pool of talent and how it's been growing for the past 10-ish years is impressive. What's your take on that?
I mean, it's incredible. I think, coming from where I come from, the Netherlands, right? Design is so deeply rooted in our culture. Yeah, our country in itself is a functional design when you think about it. 1/3 is below sea level with approximately 7 meters. So we are constantly challenged to think how we can survive and thrive in that environment. So we always think of solution. We always think design. It's even called Dutch design thinking. And you don't need to be Dutch or you don't need to be a designer necessarily, but it's deeply rooted in our thinking that we are always coming up with solutions. We think of how we can do things differently, and then we execute it, we break it down, and we do it again. Because in order to think outside of that box, you need to master that box first. And that is where we are coming from. So, moving here, I quickly grew wary that there was so much to do, because it's not such a overly designed landscape or community. I mean, we think of it as an overly designed when we look at the glitz and the glamour and the buildings and everything that we see in between, but there is still so much for us to do. And it was just an exciting thought to be part of that. And I thought, this is where I can be of added value. And this also reflects in the work that I'm doing here. I'm working on big projects like the museum strategy for the city of Riyadh. Nobody in the Netherlands is going to ask me to come up with a strategy for Amsterdam. That's already been done. So obviously the size and the scale of the projects, which many designers and architects will say who are working in this region, is incredible. And that's just something that really excites me. When people ask me, like, how are you? I always say, like, I'm great. It's a great time to be alive, because it truly feels that way. It's a great time that we live in, that we are able to do all these things.
What about the educational part of things? I know that you're involved into a lot of workshops and cultural aspects of design.
Yeah, I mean, still, that part has never left me, that educational element. I work with a lot of universities here. I am always banging the drum for conversations in our industry. That's why I said I'm not used to be on this side of the thing, because usually I'm moderating a lot, I'm chairing a lot. I read and I write for a lot of magazines, publications, because I think it's really important to have these dialogue, the ongoing debate about the importance of design, because I really do think that design serves as an agent of change. I think with the pandemic, when we talk about, education in the wider sense of the world, I think what the pandemic has taught us is a lot of great things also, but it gave the world a better understanding of the importance of design in society. Again, coming from the Netherlands, I can compare this, because for us, we have a lot of subsidies. It's deeply rooted in our culture, rebuilding our country after World War II. You can find a post stamp in the Netherlands, which is done by a graphic designer, not someone in-house. But, there's so much attention, detail, effort into everything, like designing of, Schiphol Airport, for example, and the signage. Everything in the Netherlands is designed. We always joke about it, saying that, if a leaf falls on the railway, the whole system collapses. And that's the way it is, because everything is designed in a certain way to work in a certain way. I think we're, it's a way of controlling things as well. Coming back to the pandemic, we always think of, nurses as the first responders to the pandemic, and that's absolutely true. But designers were absolutely on the forefront as well. Immediately reacting, coming up with solutions, designing spaces differently, adding, screens for separation, whether that was, a great idea or not, because we're actually creating an extra surface. But, we had to adapt to that change real quick. And then we even saw designers who managed to hack ventilators so they could be used by 2 people instead of 1. We saw the fashion industry changing their manufacturing systems to design protective gear and to produce these things. So I think that really made the world understand the importance of design in society, and not as just something for the creatives that they decided to do. It's not, sometimes people may think of it as an extended hobby, or, it always makes me cringe, these thoughts. And that also leads to a lot of problems, because In no other industry, for example, are designers asked to work for free, for example. You wouldn't ask a surgeon to work for free, to operate for you on you for free. And designers are probably asked to do free things all the time. Free design if we give you the project, things like this. And I think that's unacceptable. I think it starts with us not accepting these things. It starts with people like me who are having conversations about it, about bringing people together, about sharing the knowledge and what we can do about it. And here we are again. It's a great time to be alive because we can really drive change.
You're being a great ambassador for the design community. But out of all of these debates and panels, you touched upon very, very important subject, but what would be the other important subjects that you think should be a priority to address in the design industry?
I think the most important thing on the agenda is sustainability. And I know it's overused. People think of it as a buzzword. I don't think sustainability is of importance now. It's great that we have COP28 and, generating a lot more awareness around the topic. But I think sustainability is something that we should always talk about. It should always be our starting point. I also want to be able to leave this planet and look my kids in the eye and saying that I've left them something for good, as designers and architects, because I still consider myself as a designer, even though I'm not a practicing designer, but that's why I always speak of we. We are always pressured with doing the right thing. But there's only so much that we can do. We need to, as designers, come up with solutions. We need to create those solutions. We need to be able to communicate those solutions. And we need to be able to convince our client that going for a more sustainable approach is the way to go. And that's how they need to spend their money. Because as a designer, you're also a protector of the client's investment, right?
And at your agency, I know that you do big part in communication and transmitting the message of the designer to the client. And how about doing that for the outer world as well and the organizations involved to drive more positive change?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the work that I do is behind the scenes. This is where I realized that I grew most comfortable. Mm-hmm. So we're always involved in many, many things. But we are probably most known for our communications department because that is supposed to be a lot more in your face. So what we do is, this brings me back to art school where I was helping my peers making sure that the world got to see their work and that it was understood and that it was an eye opener. I think this is the true beauty of design, where you look at something and it makes you think about something different. So there's obviously a certain function to design, but when it challenges you to think about, society, economy, sustainability, all these elements differently, then it's almost on the verge of art, because that is what art does, right? So that is the power that design has to transform. This is our message to the world. So I'm only a facilitator, making sure that that message lands well in the world and that it's understood by everyone. So I'm only a channel. I'm always in service of others in my work.
Esra, this is all truly impressive. But what advices would you give your younger self?
To relax a bit more and to enjoy it a bit more. But I can only say that from where I am today, looking back, where I was back then. I really wanted to succeed. I was so pressured with finding the right job for myself, something that I could enjoy doing for the rest of my life, something that I could sustain doing for the rest of my life, even though at the time that I was studying, I couldn't study for what I'm doing today. I always say that 99% of the things I do on a daily basis, I didn't learn in school, but it gave me that fundament. And I think this is what a creative upbringing does. It teaches you all these skills like, creative thinking, critical thinking, empathy, which I believe in this day and age where we deal with so much technology. Now with AI, we question whether we are going to be replaced by AI, whether our parents questioned whether they were going to be replaced by robots. Mm-hmm. And I think what this, let's call it super technology, does is it's challenging us to evolve into superhumans, because there are certain things that we do that AI can do for us or that a robot could do for us. But there are certain things that they will never be able to do for us, which is having empathy, critical thinking, all these skills. So I think in the future, the people that will really thrive in modern day and age will be the ones who master these skills. And this is what creative upbringing does for you.
Wow.
So in that sense, yeah, I wish that I was a little bit more relaxed at the time, believing that things were going to be all right and that I would find my way. But as said, now looking back at it, I'm 35 now. I can look back at it and say, okay, it worked out well. I had faith, and I wish, if there was one thing that I would have changed earlier, because with this you can never start early enough, is to talk openly about money.
Okay.
I think in our family, we never talked about money. I also come from a place where we never had to worry about money, or perhaps my parents managed to hide it very well. There was always enough. There was no worries. But I think as a business owner, of course, you have to talk about money, but talking about money in the business sense was never really an issue, because for me, business and private, I keep it very separate. So I would still say I'm obviously the same person, but it's easier to talk about, finance in the business than talking about personal finances. And I think there's also a bit of a taboo around it to talk about finances in the creative industry. It's almost, when you're an artist or a designer or an architect, doesn't matter, it's almost a dirty word to talk about money. There is always this almost taboo vagueness around it. You're also never gonna question an artist. You never question a surgeon how much money they make in the procedure. But with an artist, you'll be like, okay, this is your canvas, this is the paint you use, this brand, okay, so I'm adding that up. So then this part, that is what exactly? Your added value, that's your creativity that you're pricing up here. So it's open for debate and people accept it. And I think that is wrong. I mentioned earlier that whether it's designers or let's call them creatives, we're often asked to do things for free. Sometimes it's covered up in the way that we say, oh, I'm going to give you free publicity. I still get that until today, where, it's often, that's the way they found me in the first place, right? Because I'm out there. But yeah, I think this is worth having a conversation. It's a lot of conversations we're having at the moment. There are certain exceptions to the case. I think designers and architects, we do a lot of competitions in order to get a project. So that could be perhaps a bit of a gray area. But designers are challenged to work for free. And I think if we spoke about finances more openly, if we were more transparent also about the salaries of designers and architects ask around how many get paid the over hours that they make. It seems like it's double standards for creatives or for other professions. So these are things that need to change. And I think sometimes it takes people, or if it takes people like myself, and of course I can't do it on my own, but we need to drive that change in order to be a mature design society that we want to be. So there are certain there are multiple aspects to it. So, I touched on talking about money being a taboo in our household, talking about money being a taboo in the creative industry, and what I've learned through the business, but also how important it is to talk about, personal finances and to make money work for you. I think in education in general, these are things that need to be talked about. I wish that during my time at the academy, we talked about the financial aspects of a business, or, I was so pressured with thinking of how I could sustain a career, how I could sustain financial sustainability for the rest of my life when you're studying, right? So if we were talking about finances back then, it would have given me much more peace of mind, probably. At that time, I only thought, okay, I need to, find a job or create a job for myself that can pay for, my life and everything that I wanna do. And this is what's missing. And, that's where we also, and being on the strategy side of things, you obviously are involved in sometimes also financial aspects of, businesses where we make growth strategies and stuff like that. And I feel like there is not really a lot of knowledge that people don't make informed decisions when it comes to that. I mean, I'm obviously not a financial planner, but I've learned a thing or two myself along the way. So, I think this is something that needs to be part of education. And I'm maybe we should even bring this back to, primarily school. I don't know what it's like, here, for example, and in this day and age, but when I was brought up, the only thing that you would get as a child was a piggy bank, and we were told about saving, where actually now we know better that money needs to work for you, right? So, and with these things, you can never start early enough. So I wish I knew that from earlier on. Yeah.
Very, very valid point. It's a moneymaker.
Yeah.
And exponential growth is the key for money. Had we invested back then?
Absolutely. See, these are the things that I say I wish somebody told me back then, right? So that's definitely an advice I would give my younger self. Talk about money openly, make it work for you. But better late than never. That's also a thing.
Better late than never. Absolutely. More power to you, and thank you for speaking up. And I hope that many other leaders join you on this mission.
That would be great.
And this is what we're trying to do here, to raise awareness at the Inners community. And thank you for being part of the community. And hopefully through this podcast, as a vessel, it can reach to the other people who can join hands with us.
I truly hope so. I truly hope so. That would be amazing. Thank you.
Okay, Esra. Now we come to the point in the show where we're going to know a little bit more about you. And this is going to be really fun. This is your favorites, which is 8 favorite things, starting with your favorite dish.
My favorite dish. Yeah. I have to be quick, right? I guess French fries. Disappointing? I'm Dutch. We love our fries.
Fair enough.
Or cheese. Maybe it's cheese. I always say I'd love to reincarnate as a mouse because I could, chill and eat cheese all day. So cheese, maybe.
That is one of the most unexpected answers I got to this question. It's not disappointing. I got disappointed because I usually build up my next question on the answer. I'm going to ask you anyway.
Okay.
Are you a good cook?
No, I don't even try. It's I've started to do my New Year's resolution list for 2024, and cooking at home is one of the things it's actually my top thing, cooking at home. Okay. I must admit that it's the top of my list every year. But now I have 2 small kids, so I really want to dedicate the time to sit together for dinner and share a meal with the family. So
That's beautiful.
I'm gonna try. But yeah, I don't enjoy it. It's just, I mean, I can put some things together.
Okay.
That's not that difficult. But it takes me so much time that by the time it's ready, I've lost my appetite. So, and I must also say, like living in Dubai, we are so spoiled with the best restaurants in the world. Anything you want can be delivered to your doorstep. So yes, I'm a Deliveroo.
French fries and cheese it is.
Yeah, I could
Okay.
live on that. That's a lot of carbs.
What's your favorite band, artist, music-wise?
I'm not even sure if I can say that I have a favorite.
You that you like?
I like in my car, because that's where I truly enjoy listening to music. I put the volume up. I always believe that nobody on the outside can hear me, and I can even sing along after a long day. But I love to listen to Billie Eilish, Lorde, Sia,
Nice.
these mainly, I don't want to say mainly women, but yeah, anything that comes along really. But this is the stuff that I like.
When is your next album coming out?
Well, I said, like with 2 small kids, all the stuff I'm hearing is head, shoulders, knees, and toes, wheels on the bus. So you only catch me singing the alphabet song in the shower, unfortunately.
Bless your children. Okay. What's your favorite movie or TV series?
TV, I don't watch.
Okay.
Honestly. Oh, I'm feeling all nostalgic because, you know, with Christmas and everything, the one thing I'll definitely be watching is Home Alone for the 150th time, because that's like, for me, I'm so looking forward to switching off for 3 days.
Yeah.
And I just want to switch off for 3 days, be in our pajamas all day, watch Home Alone. That's all I have on my mind, like now going towards the end of the year. Not that, you know, Home Alone is my favorite movie, but just such, you know, loving memories. My favorite movie, favorite TV show. No, because everything that I see these days is so full of drama.
Yeah.
Sometimes I watch it. I try to watch some shows for the real estate or for the design aspect, but then it's so snowed under with all the drama that I just can't get through. But no, one thing that I really like is we have something in the Netherlands called Expeditie Robinson. It's like, I think every country has its format. You put a few people on a deserted island and they need to do all these games and survive in the wilderness. I'm sure, as I said, like I'm sure every country, they have their own edition. And this is something I enjoy watching because I mean, deep down inside, I wish they would ask me for a show like that and see like how I would manage and, you know, just be away from the screen and the phone.
A difficult question, I guess. Who is your favorite designer, painter?
That is a difficult question because I used to have my favorites.
Yeah.
Going back to that list that I mentioned, that list of the
when you
10
started the
people
book.
and companies that I admired. And I ended up working with these people. So they are still my favorites, but I got to know them in a very different way. So designers I admire. Then let me go back in time to someone I've never met in person, but if he was still alive, I would love to meet.
Okay.
That would be Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, probably. Yes.
Okay. What is your favorite book, apart from the one that you've written?
Design as an Attitude by Alice Rawsthorn.
What is your favorite animal?
Horse.
Okay. Do you ride?
I've been riding my whole life. And I'd have to be specific. I would say it's an Arabian horse. It's not like it's my spirit animal or, you know, I don't want to, but yeah, I think in my life, I've always kept coming back to horses. I grew up with animals. I have a dog. We had a lot of animals like in our home. I was fortunate enough to have horses at home. So I've always been surrounded by a lot of animals. And I think my parents, they really taught us that love for other life and caring for them. I think that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. And for some reason, horses always keep coming back into my life. I was actually riding in the desert last week.
They are magnificent creatures. So, who is your role model?
I always enjoy observing different people, also from other industries. I know that we talk a lot about design, but it could also be someone like Ray Dalio, for example, that we learn things from. Speaking of, finances and talking about money openly, because that's something that, maybe we can add to the conversation. But speaking openly about money is something that I wish I did earlier, because by doing so, you only learn how money can actually work for you. But anyway, okay, going back to the role model, if I had to mention one person that I look up to, but again, I ended up working with that person, would be Liedewij Edelkoort. She is a trend forecaster, but actually she's Dutch. She has a studio in Paris. She's so important for the world that the word trend forecaster maybe doesn't do her justice. She is a trend maker. What she decides happens across design, fashion, the automotive. She's very, very influential. If you get a chance, it's amazing to listen to her speak. She's so incredibly wise, and she wears these big glasses. Like she has this resemblance of an owl to me, like someone so full of wisdom. She was actually recently in Dubai. And yes, if she would be a role model or someone that I really, really admire, for sure.
Great. Now we come to our last question. What is your favorite city?
Dubai. That was probably the easiest question.
There you go.
I mean, it's a great time to be alive, and Dubai is such a great place to live. I mean, I've been calling this city and the UAE, this country, as my home for the last 10 years. I am definitely here to stay. I'm not in denial. Yes, I came for 1 year. But yeah, it is for me the greatest place to be. Yeah.
And likewise to me. Esra, I cannot thank you enough for your time, for being with us today, for this candid talk and the insightful information. I'm sure it's going to be inspirational to a lot of people. And thank you for also showing vulnerability and opening up. So all I can say is I'm going to embarrass myself here, but dankjewel.
Oh, wow. You're very most welcome, alsjeblieft, as we would say. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for initiating these conversations, because I believe this is, what really matters, that, we share what we know, and if people learn a thing or two and share that with somebody else, then we've done our job correctly.
Absolutely. And the ripple effect will reach a lot of people, and hopefully it all come back full circle. So thank you again, and I'm looking forward to having you in the future for more sessions.
Amazing. Thank you, Ali.
Thank you. Hello, Inners community. Hope you enjoyed this session. We'd like to know your comments and thoughts. Most importantly, please do share the episodes and the micro content. The purpose of this podcast is to exchange experiences and share knowledge and raise awareness. So be part of the change. Create your waves. Let the ripple effect reach to everyone, where all of good action comes full circle. And please do remember to hit the like button and the subscribe button, and I'll see you next session.